And we're live again. Welcome to one more interview, one more great episode of DojoLIVE, connecting with experts like you. My name is Carlos Ponce. I'm the host of joining you from near South's Mexico City office. And way over there in our Hermosillo office, we have my fellow teammate, Sandra Vasquez from the UX team and the business development team. Sandra, welcome, and thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Carlos. Very excited for this new episode.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here, Sandra, as well. And today's DojoLIVE topic will be pretty much right up Sandra's alleys, right? We're going to be talking about understanding the value of travel data co-op, of a travel data co-op. And for that, we have Mr. Layton Han. He is the CEO at Adara. And also we have David Morrow, the Vice President of Global Marketing. Gentlemen, welcome to today's DojoLIVE, and it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. Okay. So let's get it started. And of course, one of the first questions that I would like to ask is, this is what we normally do. So why don't we start, gentlemen, by telling us a little bit about yourselves, about you, Mr. Han and Mr. Morrow. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Adara, and then of course about Adara, and we'll start right there, and then we'll
Sure.
continue. Thank you.
So just a quick background. Again, my name is Layton Han, and I'm the CEO of Adara, and I've been a longtime entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. You know, how I got into travel industry was I actually co-founded a company in a related space called MyPoints, which was an online loyalty and e-commerce platform back in the late 1990s when the internet was still young. And ultimately, that company was acquired by United Airlines, and so I got into the travel industry through that. And since then, you know, I've been involved in travel and data ever since. And over past almost 8 years, I've been you know, growing and you know really trying to help the travel industry better utilize the data and leverage the data associated with the, you know, I think the other thing is the technology that comes with the data as well. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much. David?
So my journey to Adara, I started off, I'm Irish originally, and I've worked most of my career in London. So I started off working for Adara in London, actually, and then moved over to the Palo Alto office here, the headquarters, about 1.5 years ago. But my background in London was a digital media background. So I started off working for Virgin Media and working in television, actually, and then moved on more to the technology side, working at Microsoft. But being an Irish person, I've always had a huge passion for travel. I think the Irish are pretty good travelers in general. And I managed to find this opportunity at Adara, which was able to bring together my kind of passions for media technology and travel. So I couldn't really turn down the role, and started off in London, building up our marketing function, because at that time we were really just expanding into Europe and then on to the Asia Pacific region. So I started off by building out our marketing function in those markets. And then after a while, I got offered the global role and came over here to sunny California to leave the grey skies of London behind and to build Adara's profile globally from here in headquarters.
That's great. Thank you so much for the introduction. And now what I'd like to do next is if you can tell us about your chosen topic of the day, which is understanding the value of a travel data co-op. So tell us a little bit about this. Why did you choose this particular topic for today's interview, for today's conversation, please?
So it's really the Adara's main mission is having a platform for a world's travel data co-op, right? And we believe that data co-op is the kind of the next big iteration in the kind of the big data market space. And the way the data co-op works is that it is a contribution of many for the greater good of the industry. And Adara's platform and how Adara works is that essentially you contribute data and you get something valuable, whether it's insight, marketing, effectiveness, all of these other forms in return, because you are not only leveraging your data, but the data of your peer in a transparent, safe manner. And so it is a kind of a unique data ecosystem where the industry could actually get together and contribute data and benefit not only one company but the entire industry as a whole. So our mission at the end of the day is to grow our travel data co-op to really help grow the travel industry globally. And that is what we want to do at Adara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's
perfect.
Having a co-op to share data it's a really as Layton said, it's a way of sharing data that's growing in strength a lot. And what we've been finding is traditionally a lot of people access data through third parties, and you buy in third-party data segments, which can be effective in certain ways, but by joining a data co-op where you're sharing your data, so essentially it's second-party data, it builds a lot more value and strength, and it allows us to have an insight into the people behind the data that other companies don't have by just looking at data in silos. So by bringing it all together, we're able to have a much more holistic view on the people behind the data that we see.
And for travel industry, it actually particularly works well because if you look at travel, it's very unique in how people buy, consumer behaviors buy travel. So think of it this way, Carlos or Sandra, when you travel, let's say from Mexico City to San Francisco, how many different types of travel products did you buy? You bought an airline ticket, you bought a hotel, you probably bought a rental car, or ate at restaurants, all of this. So travel is not a one, it's not like buying a car. You're buying multiple things. And so what happens is each individual companies know little bits and pieces about each one of you, but nobody knows, what Carlos or Sandra did to travel to San Francisco as a whole. And so by sharing that data among each other, the hotelers, airlines, rental car companies or transportation companies, they're able to get a greater understanding of their customers, which that they can leverage for their to basically improve their business performance.
I'm sorry, Sandra, did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just was going to say that there is a phrase that I really, really like and believe summarize what you're mentioning, that is customers have a history that doesn't involve you, but it does affect you. And especially on the travel industry, it is really, it is more related to it, because either if you purchase a airplane ticket for a corporate travel or for vacation, it will change how you purchase your hotel, or if you're traveling alone, or if you're traveling with your family. And I believe data has played a really important role on the industry for a really, really long time. So it's an industry that is used to data, but as David mentioned, only on one unit for one point of view. What are the main challenges that you see on the industry with the collection of data or data related?
So I think, the things that we're trying to solve at Adara really around data is this. So, you know, Sandra, you're absolutely correct that, you know, travel companies, especially airlines and hotels, who have had, you know, a loyalty or frequent flyer or frequent guest programs for a long time, they collect a lot of data about their customers' behavior, right? Within that, you know, within what they do within their own environment. And, you know, one of the things that I learned, you know, when I joined United was, you know, I was working in the with the frequent flyer department, which was Mileage Plus, and one of the things I kind of understood, realized is that there was a lot of companies, a lot of hotelers, and a lot of rental car companies who all wanted to partner with United Mileage Plus program to market into their frequent flyer base, because that was really valuable, right? It is like knowing that they are flyer made it valuable for the hotelers and the rental car companies. And so, but you know, the way you access that data, obviously United does not want to provide that data, you know, pass that data back to you know, these hotelers. You know, you don't want to give the data outside of your environment. So what Adara came up with is a kind of a neutral platform where you could contribute data into the platform, and where you could share data with others in one platform. So it's secure and transparent, and where you could approve or not approve how the data is used by others. And so that's the kind of, you know, if you look at the problem, you know, data is siloed, as you mentioned today. So each company has bits and pieces of data. So the first thing is, how do you share? You have to share in a safe and transparent manner, right? So the first thing is, you know, if you look at all of those companies, data is very valuable. So you want a secure way to share and really understand how that data is being used. So that's kind of the part one of our solution. The second part of the solution really is, how do they use it? What are the applications once the data is shared to use it? And for Adara, we actually have, you know, 3 ways that we, you know, people could use that shared data. One is through advertising. Other is through measurement, like how things are effective. Are you guys doing better than others, and so forth? And the third is customer insight, understanding your customer better. Those are kind of the ways we try to solve the problem of silo data and make it into a data where it's much more of an ecosystem.
Oh, thank you so much, Layton. I'm sorry, there's just some echo. Is it just me? Oh, okay, it just went away. Okay, it's technology. You never know. It's unpredictable.
Never know.
Sometimes. Yeah. Okay, so Sandra, okay, do you have any other questions for Layton or for David?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was reading one of the interview for Layton, and you mentioned a phrase that really catch me. It says that company usually have a vision of what they want to do with the data, but they don't have deep insights. So what are the technology challenges that are preventing these insights, and how is Adara helping them?
So I think so. I think, you know, it's interesting. There is less technology challenges with data, and there is a lot more people challenges with data. So I'll kind of try to explain that. So I think technology has made it possible to cheaply, you know, collect, aggregate data, right? That's if you look at today, big data is all about just collecting data. And there's a lot of companies trying to make it useful, right? Even within just their own data sets, right? Visualize the data. What's I think challenging for people is that a lot of it, you know, there is people are starting to get good reporting, right? So that's kind of step one, right? So, you know, getting reporting. The step two is, how do you get deep learning and insights, right? That could help actually drive the business, right? And I think that's a challenge, and that's not just technology, right? That's people actually building that technology, right? So building the right algorithm, knowing what data is good, what data is not good. I always said when we started Adara that the data is cheap, knowledge is valuable and expensive, right? And so that's the kind of I think a lot of people are having the challenge of any company is it's not really collecting the data. It's really about interpreting, creating useful information out of it. We get a lot of requests from many of our clients and partners who says these are great information, but what could I do with it, right? And so I think their industry, and travel is not any different from anybody else. Is still going through this this kind of a maturing stage where it is not easy to make that data really useful. Right?
Yeah.
You want to say anything more?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the challenges that companies face really is, and as you said, Layton, it's finding what can be useful for them, and it's about how do they then monetize that, and how do they make it work for the customer as well? Because at the end of the day, the customer is what is important to these travel companies, and if they learn more about their customers, they're going to be able to give them better experiences. They're going to be able to get those customers to spend more money.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to better service those customers, and they go away with a much happier experience as a customer. And so the data is not just about learning more about your customers. You've got to be able to act on that as well. And so what we can help companies with is to show them signals and trends and ways in which they can help their customers have a better experience, and at the same time spend a bit more money with the company. So this is where we come back to this full circle to the benefit of a data co-op, is that there's mutual benefits for everyone involved. So there's benefits for the consumer of the company that they're buying travel from being in a data co-op, because that company will know them better and will know more about them. There's benefits for the company of being in the data co-op because their customers get a better experience and they come back and spend more money with them. And there's a benefit to Adara because they're in our data co-op. So everybody wins, and that's I guess the main point why we created this co-op.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it really is, at the end of the day, the challenge of any business is not the data collection anymore, or even the technology. It is the knowledge, sophistication, I think, is the next level of creating the insights and ability to do that. I mean, you look at, I would say, like something like artificial AI, right? Requires actually two things, right? Everybody's talking about AI. I'm sure that you guys are also working on a lot of things in that area. Is really it's all about getting the right set of data and then putting together the right type of algorithm or whatever you want to get the that artificial machine learning or artificial intelligence working, right? And the challenge for all of that is that I think the data problem is getting solved. It's really that people factor of making it work.
Yeah, thank you. And as something that really resonates with me is that we're on an era of personalization, and now sending for airlines or any car rental sending us a flyer about something that we purchased a month ago is completely different. Maybe we were in a different location, a different situation for that travel, and solution like Adara can help these companies give really personalized marketing experiences.
Right. Yeah, I mean, personalization is something that throughout the whole marketing life cycle, right? So I think personalization at the kind of the e-commerce or website is one of the last steps, actually, kind of probably not the last step, but because there's personalization after that, a post-transaction. But really, the stage of consideration, or even that, right? The brand aware, making sure it's the right kind of messaging, right positioning for all of the marketing and advertising, all of that is done to where really the impact of personalization then comes in at e-commerce and post-transaction. And Adara has been kind of working on from, all the kind of the marketing consideration stage, right? Making sure that if you're a traveler, you're interested in, let's kind of give you the locations or give you the places you want to go, right? Curating some of that through our data to like type of hotel, type of airlines that you want to fly on, type of hotels you want to stay on. Ultimately, when they get to these places, we have enough data. So let's say if somebody's ready to go to a hotel site, we may have some airline data that could help that personalize those commerce activities. So really, it is a full funnel marketing personalization. I don't think you could just do personalization, and I think everybody has kind of focused really on personalization just being on the website. But I think that's just one part of a kind of a full funnel strategy that's got to be implemented.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave, Layton, and thank you, David, again. So, Sandra, everybody, I'd like to just step in for 1 second, if I may, to interrupt. And I'd like to remind the audience that if you have any questions for either Layton or David, you can just send them on Twitter. The handle is right here at DojoLIVE. Just go there. You know what to do. You know what Twitter is, so it's right there. At DojoLIVE, ask your questions. We'll read them back to Layton and David, and they'll be able to respond here live on this during the course of this interview. And of course, there's the interview is going to be up there on the website, and you can watch it at a later time. But for now, this is where questions should be asked at DojoLIVE. All right. So with that being said, I have a question. So if I may, Sandra, unless you have any other, I mean, for now, may I? Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a generic question regarding the industry itself. And from your standpoint and from Adara's standpoint, what technologies do you believe that are shaping the new generation of travelers, or what do you think we can expect for the next 5 years, 10 years? Maybe that's further down the road, but a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years from now, what do you think is going to look like for the newer generations of travelers across the board?
I think I think you guys work with a lot of travel companies, but really the promising area where people are looking at it, these are not fully realized yet, but areas that are of super interest is obviously artificial intelligence and virtual reality, right? And I think travel, it works very well for both of those. So, if you look at artificial intelligence, I kind of look at it as, it's another form of personalization, right? Ability to kind of create travel, transaction that is customized for you. And people are starting to work on that, right? I just saw on the news this morning about Google, their personal assistant, partnering with Walmart to order groceries and things like that. And you could kind of see that similar concept happening for travel, right? Where, there is a, kind of artificial intelligence or whatever, digital assistant that could help you kind of curate travel in the right manner, right? I think to get the right type of travel schedule, all of that done. I think the second piece, I know that a lot of the airlines are looking into it, that I know of, is virtual reality, both to get them to a destination, right? So if you have a virtual reality, say, let's say, maybe walking tour of Mexico City, before you get there, it may enhance that. And then also, I think a lot of the airlines are looking at virtual reality as an entertainment piece when you have that long flight, right? So things like that are, I think are the kind of what I see as probably, it is 5 years out, it is not tomorrow, but people are investigating on it and are looking towards it as well.
Yeah.
So
I think just building on the AI and virtual reality, a lot of it comes down to the customer experience. And I've seen, reading reports and looking at experiments that are happening, a lot of things that in the travel industry that are being done are to improve the traveling experience. Because, we've all been there in a horrific travel experience, waiting in long immigration lines, hideous security queues, and we've had that bad experience. But there's a lot of airports investing in better technology to speed the traveler through the airport. I think Heathrow Airport in London is doing an experiment with iris recognition, so that you can just go straight through security without ever having to show a boarding pass or a ticket, and it gets you to your gate quicker, and it's just doing that on iris recognition. And I think there's different airports trialing different experiences to help get you through that process. And then when you're in destination, I think a lot of companies like Airbnb and some of the hotel companies are really looking at what customers want when they are there. And it's not just about the room for the night, it's about what you do when you're there. It's about experiences. And so a lot of the apps and these companies are being built out to fit seamlessly with in destination experiences, so that you don't have to go from one place to another and do all the research. It's popping up suggestions for you of what to do when you're there, while you're traveling, and maybe even language help as well for when you're there. So everything seems to be converging on making the experience easier for the traveler.
So you're talking about the more subjective sides of travel, like language, cultural surroundings. These are kind of these things could affect the travel experience, right?
Yeah, it is. All aspects of that experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And also there's one thing, and here, this is a quote: the data is cheap, but knowledge is valuable and expensive, right? So I think this is a jewel. This is a gem. But so Mike, what I'd like to ask you about this specifically is, in this kind of ties into what we just mentioned about the travel experience being affected by other more subjective aspects like culture, language, and the like. How would you say that these aspects that are subjective affect the value of the knowledge that is obtained through data or through data manipulation in travel?
Yeah, I would say, again, it really is a curation, right? So to think of it as subjectivity is all about curation, right? Ability to get the right type of information, right type of products in front of traveler, right? Destination, airlines, and all of that. And that's actually not that easy. But more data sets you have, the more it is. Well, one of the things about data, the big data world that we should always understand is that, why data is cheap and actually knowledge is very valuable and expensive is that there's a lot of noise, right? So actually, most of it is noise, right? And so what you have to do is actually figure out patterns, right? Ability to understand how you behave, right? And one of the great things about travel, and this is another reason why co-op works very well in travel, what we see typically is that travelers have they tend to travel, many travelers, if you're a traveler, you tend to travel often. So when you also travel, you tend to travel with you have a pattern of you travel. You typically have a favorite, airport, favorite airlines, even favorite parking spot at the airport and things like that. And so what you're seeing in travel is that you actually have a lot of patterns, right? That makes it much easier to kind of curate what the people want, right? And that really comes from the frequency of the data. So if you're traveling, many people like to travel, they travel a lot. So you get a lot of information. The second thing is that they tend to have a pattern to it, right? Somebody who flies Air Mexico continuously, less likely to fly, let's say, United Airlines, right? And so ability to understand that type of pattern is, again, data is only valuable if you extract information around that. And so that's I think the important part about data is really understanding that type of pattern recognition and the kind of the frequency of the data that comes in.
Mm-hmm. And the data as well, recognizing patterns is great because it allows companies to get in front of people at the right time with the right offers and so forth. But it also, recognizing patterns, a lot of the time there are multiple patterns that you need to recognize for the same traveler. So, people act very differently when they're traveling for leisure or when they're traveling for business. And a simple signal like the booking is for 4 people, not 1, is a very clear signal that it's possibly a leisure trip rather than a business trip. And so there's different messages and different insights that you can gain from multiple patterns for the same profile.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Sandra, please.
Yeah, so you're mentioning data co-ops allowed companies or industry to be the holistic view of the market, and especially in Adara case, you allow travel companies view the holistic view of this market. So you work with different corporations and organizations, and each of these companies individually have a different perspective, different needs. They use different systems and are familiar with different technologies. So I wonder, what is Adara approach on user experience to build a system that consistently engages customers and users within the organizations that are working with Adara?
So I think that is one of the kind of the competencies that we have built. Really is that every company. So we have, now getting close to 200, travel companies contributing data into our platform, right? With that 200 companies, what happens is obviously we kind of understand that everybody has a different. Think about it. Everybody has different systems, different data taxonomy, right? So, let's say Mexico City, somebody would say, in their database would be Mexico City. Some may say, I don't know, MC or whatever. So what we have done is ability to kind of be able to, connect to these various different systems, extract data, and ability to normalize it, right? Which is a very important piece of the business, right? Is ability to kind of normalize the data so that it is, you could actually, connect it and match it, right? And so that's an important piece of the piece of the business because it is hard. And then when we are then activating these data sets, and then you have to connect with all of the other pieces associated with it, whether it's a personalized engine, ad platform, or a database. And so, one of our kind of the core competency of our technology, besides the data security and data rights management, that piece really is ability to kind of connect, normalize the data, aggregate, connect, and normalize the data, and then ability to actually connect to activation channels where that data could be used.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much again. Sandra, you are on mute, and I do believe that you still have a couple of questions for Layton and David, right?
Oh no, Carlos is fine. I just went
I'm
over
sorry?
mine. No, I don't have any more questions.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Yes, actually, I have a question, another question, if I may, and this is about maybe a different aspect of Adara, but it's something I'm personally curious about. I understand that Adara is an international company with multiple office locations. So my question is, how do you manage to streamline, for example, your team's collaboration efforts across multiple, time zones, cultures, or whatever, particularly in such a sensitive vertical as travel, and sensitive in the sense that because of what we mentioned, things like language and culture and the experience of the traveler, things like that. When you're developing, when you're working and developing the Adara's tools, how do you streamline your collaboration efforts across multiple geographies, so to speak, to come up with what you have come up so far?
I guess the best, it's never easy, right? Because we have a lot of different offices all over the world. Part of it is that you have to localize your products and services. So like, we have a defined team in, APAC out of the Singapore office. We have a defined team in Europe out of, London and Dublin offices. And so what we're trying to do is that we have an underlying platform and the technology that's built in, Palo Alto, or let's say US, because we have offices throughout the US as well. But really, at the end of the day, globally, it is customized with global. There is a lot of companies that are global, so our data set is pretty global. But there are localization required with the technology platform, the product, all within kind of the region, because they are different. And so the collaboration level happens at the platform level, I would say, and then the local teams work on the local level.
And I think as well, one thing we do very well at Adara is we practice what we preach. We all travel quite a lot, and so we all go in market and we get experience of those markets, and we've got experts in each market who are traveling around. Just yesterday, we've had a sales leadership conference here in San Francisco for 2 days. People flew in for that from Singapore, from Dubai, from London, from all over the place. So we spend a lot of time on planes because it's good to communicate face to face as well as through all of the other technologies that we use to do that.
We want to contribute to growing the travel industry.
Perfect. And I actually one of the best ways to do that is, as you say, it's face to face, right? Yeah. And actually, that's why we're here, because we met. We met with a lot of people that had taken part in the travel edition of DojoLIVE. At traveling at Banff precisely. So yeah, there's unquestionably it's technology is great, but there's also this human factor that is cannot, and I hope that will not be replaced ever. Cool. All right. So gentlemen, we're approaching the final minutes, the final segment of today's interview. So what I would like to do now, I think that we have pretty much covered the questions we had for you today. So I'd like to go back to you, and in wrapping up, do you specifically about going back to the topic, understanding the value of a travel data co-op. Is there anything else that you would like to mention to the audience, or any final words of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with? The mic's all yours.
I think we've been, I think that word data, big data has kind of been overused, but I think really at the end of the day, it's, I leave the fact that data is going to be power, probably the most important things, innovation that's going forward, right? Things like artificial intelligence, right? And if you look at artificial intelligence, I just use things like, not only personal assistant, think about self-driving cars. What is that all about? It's based on data, right? The road data, all of these different types of data that's available, right? And so what you will see, I think, is, people have said data is the new, oil of the economy, global economy. I do believe that it is going to be, the kind of the key crux. And the important thing is having the right data and having that right quality type of data. That's probably the most important thing. Otherwise, it's noise, right? So data is cheap from that sense. It's very expensive and valuable if you do it. You get the right things.
Yeah. I guess the final point for myself is, the title of this session was called the value of a travel data co-op, and the answer to the question of what is the value of a travel data co-op was actually that the answer is different for every person who uses it. So each company that uses our travel data co-op has a different value that they get out from that, but everybody gets a value from it, and that is the whole purpose of bringing all of this data together. So we work with each of those individual companies to understand how they can best leverage being in the co-op and how they can best bring an advantage to the other people within the co-op. So it's all, again, going back to this mutual benefit that everybody enjoys from being in there.
Okay.
Perfect. Great. That was absolutely awesome. So I guess at least from my end, and unless Sandra has something different, but the only thing left for me to do, well, first of all, before we go, if our audience, whether now or at a later time when they're visiting the website, is there where can they learn more about Adara or about Layton Hahn or David Morrow?
So Adara.com is the best place to go to. Everything we have is on our website. Our Twitter handle is @AdaraGlobal. If you want to follow our updates on Twitter.
Perfect.
And on the website, you'll also see the links to all of our social media profiles where we put out where we're going to be, who we're talking to, and we share lots of very nice photographs of lovely destinations as well, of all the places that we've been to. But if you are going to Adara.com, we are about to relaunch our website, so there will be a brand shiny new Adara.com in a few weeks if you go there.
Oh, excellent. Look forward to that. Absolutely. Yeah, and well, the contact info and the URL and every all the information pieces that David has mentioned are going to be right there on this interview's page, which is going to be right there on DojoLIVE on the website. With that being said, the only thing left for me to do, David, Layton, Sandra, is a big thank you, and I encourage you to keep an eye. Oh, by the way, this is a quick announcement, is that today we have what we call double whammy, because we have another interview and a totally different subject. Of course, it's technology relevant, but it's not travel tech. But for those who are into Scrum methodologies and Agile methodologies, we're going to have, and let me just share it here to everyone, we're going to have the presence of Robin Kriegelstein with the topic Designing for the Predictable Irrational User. So that's going to be in 2 hours. I'm sorry, in 1 hour from now. So keep an eye out for that. And right here on DojoLIVE, is dojo.nearsoft.com. It's right there if you're interested. And let me just stop sharing here. And again, Layton, David, a really heartfelt thank you for having agreed to be here with us today. And we'll look forward to being in touch, and keep an eye on one of these. You're going to be in FedEx a couple of days. You can have them and enjoy your coffee and a little couple of tokens of appreciation for your time and for having shared your views about the industry and about Adara. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Sandra, thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
Bye.